Hi, I'm going to be giving you a guide on when to pick Lee Sin, Lee Sin's best matchups, his biggest counters, and some tips on each matchup specifically. Lee Sin is the most popular jungler in League of Legends, and thus has a ton of data for his best builds, best team comps to play with, and also jungle matchup win rate. This data is not 100% reliable, however, as Lee Sin is a high-skill champion whose win rate increases the more games you play. League of Graphs puts this win rate increase as plus 3.1% up to 49.4% total average win rate after having 50 games played. This win rate is likely to increase further as you play more games and perfect combos such as the Insect and know when to use them in each game. Lower elos will also likely have a lower win rate on him due to the skill required to play him. Firstly, Lee Sin is best picked into team comps without heavy CC and with many squishy champions, as Lee Sin's main advantage as a champ is his mobility. High CC comps shut him down easily and do not allow him to make the flashy plays he wants to make. Lee Sin does like squishy enemy teams as he loves building high AD, which lets him one-shot champions with a Q, R, Red Smite, Q, E combo. An example of a good time to pick Lee Sin is an enemy team comp of Kayle top, Kindred Jungle, Yasuo mid, Kai'Sa AD carry, Karma support. These are low CC champions that you can counter easily as Lee Sin, especially since they're scaling champions, so you can deal with them early game and snowball. An example of a bad team to pick Lee Sin against is Mordekaiser top, as he can death round you and has CC, Nunu Jungle, high CC, Galio mid, high CC, Ezreal AD carry due to his mobility, and Lulu support who has good CC, can polymorph you, and can help their AD carry easily. This comp would completely deny all of Lee Sin's playmaking ability in both the early and late game. Lee Sin is playable in many bad positions, but many other junglers would outperform him, especially against high CC team comps. Lee Sin can adapt to bad matchups by building Black Cleaver for tanks to shred their armor, and Death Stance to keep you alive in fights. In good matchups, or if you get a lead, Lee Sin can take 1v1s against pretty much any matchup, so make sure you're pushing your lead as much as possible when you get it. Lee falls off hard after laners get 3 items, so Guardian Angel can help in fights, as you can escape with ward hops, even if killed. It makes you less of a target in fights and gives you a chance to make a mistake, such as getting hit by CC. Now onto the matchups. The best matchups to pick Lee Sin into are champions like Kindred, Nidalee, Shaco, Karthus, and Master Yi. These are ones where you can pressure the enemy jungler early, while also being able to deal with them late game, and they also have very little CC, which Lee Sin struggles to deal with. The worst matchups for Lee Sin are champions like Nunu, Volibear, Fiddlesticks, Warwick, and Rammus. In these matchups, Lee has very little counterplay to the enemies, and is often heavily CC'd and killed in fights before being able to make a play. Some of these are even worth dodging the game if you get up against them. Now for the specific matchup tips, I'm going to go through all of the junglers who are popular and talk about what you can do to win each of the matchups. Khazix, most popular jungler right now. 1v1 is difficult to win at any point of the game if you're isolated, as Khazix just has higher damage than you. You can't win level 3 without help, so prefer to go for 2v2 fights early so you're not isolated, which makes it much easier to win. Late game, Lee can reveal Khazix with Q and kick him off carries or attempt to one-shot him, but make sure you're not left alone against him, as he will one-shot you. Against Graves, build Executioner's Calling if he gets Death Stance, as that will allow you to 1v1 him. This, along with Conqueror, will allow you to win longer 1v1s, especially if you have Death Stance yourself. Kayn, you beat him 1v1 up till he transforms, and then struggle versus both forms after. Try to pressure him early in the jungle and look for invades and 1v1s as soon as possible. You want to delay his form for as long as possible, and you can do this by killing him in fights early game, so that he doesn't get his orbs. Against Volibear, it's a difficult matchup, but he's a good target for multiple person kicks since he has so much health. Save it for after he uses his ultimate for maximum damage. It's also good to use your ultimate for disengage, mostly, in that matchup. Against Ekko, kick is great for blocking his ultimate, as it keeps him CC'd in the air and able to use it. It's best to one-shot him with your team during this time. Early game against him, you win your fights if you dodge his W, stun, so stay out of the circle until it disappears and his shield disappears as well, and then you can win the 1v1 easily. Nunu is very strong counter. The best opportunities you have is to kick Nunu to cancel his ultimate and get him away from your teammates. Dodging his snowball with Ward Hop is a must at all points of the game, as he can chain CC you easily, and you can die and get caught off just one snowball. Zac will either jump on you and CC you as you try and make plays, or avoid you and jump past you onto your team. Both are very bad. Consider using your ult for disengage after he lands, and mostly protecting your carries in this matchup, staying with your team, not trying to make plays. Against Elise, it's a skill matchup. Whoever catches the other first is likely to win the 1v1. Elise, however, has a CC advantage with her cocoon, so dodging that with Ward Hop or juking will keep you healthy enough to win the 1v1, as she won't be able to get free damage onto you. Insec is not worth it, as she can just repel and stay in the air, or jump to minions. Master Yi is a good matchup for Lee Sin. 1v1 him early when he's full clearing his camps, as he won't be able to beat you. Let him keep tanking the camps while he's using his meditate. Don't take too much damage. If you die to him early, the game will become very hard, so make sure you're being cautious. Kick is very good against G, as it's targeted CC, which is always very good against G. Use this to stop his meditation and keep him in place for your team to kill. Fiddlesticks is a very hard matchup, especially versus the new Fiddlesticks, as even disengaging from him becomes hard if you get feared. Ideally, try to kill him early with your team, so he can't safely scale in his jungle. Nidalee is an easier version of Elise, as she has no CC, but the same damage. You can win a 1v1 at any time before or after level 6 if you're isolated, but try and win it early. And even late game Nidalee will out-heal your damage, so will not be a priority target in fights. Gragas. Take long fights early game and avoid his E when possible. A 1v1 is always winnable, especially with Conqueror healing, as he struggles to one-shot people. His ultimate can interrupt ward hops, so don't use them before he throws it. Save them for after he uses it, so you're knocked back and then you ward hop away before you die. Kindred is a good matchup. The 1v1 is winnable as long as you have a ward or flash to stay on top of her, as she's ranged. So you want to continuously be getting in her face, not letting her kite you. Use your kick to get her out of her ultimate. It's best to save it for near the end of the ultimate so she can't just run back in after you've done it. Then you'll get the health regen and she won't. For Jarvan, early game dodge his EQ combo with ward hops, and then you'll always win the 1v1 as he doesn't have any damage left. Late game, you can tank his R for your team, kick him out onto his team, and then ward hop out of the circle is the best way to deal with him. For Vi, if you dodge her Q early game, the fights become very easy, as she can't escape or kill you, as she doesn't have any damage left. Late game, her ultimate is a hard counter to your playmaking, so try to avoid engaging before she's used it, as it will deny any dive that you try to make. Try not to tank it and try and let your teammates tank it if possible. Evelyn is similar to Yi. If you die to her early, the game becomes very difficult, so dodge her charm in early game fights and the 1v1 becomes much easier, as she doesn't have enough damage to finish you off early. Late game, you can keep her in vision with your Q. It's best not to try and combo her with your ult, as you can do enough damage without it and force her to ult away. Shaco is very similar to Eve. You need to dodge his CC early game, which are the boxes, and that makes the fights much easier. Your Q reveals his stealth and which clone is real, so that really helps with invisible targets. Hecarim, you must invade him early as he outscales you so much. The 1v1 is very impossible for him to win before level 6, as you just have much too much damage for him and he has no mobility or ability to outplay you. All he can do is go in. After level 6, it's still very hard for Hecarim, so kill him often and steal his camps to stop him getting too much gold. He will eventually outscale you, so you need to have won the game by the time he gets Triforce. Or you need to be very far ahead of him by the time he gets Triforce. Karthus, early fights are very easy with ward hops. Use that to avoid his Q and jump through the wall, and then slow him, and he'll be forced to flash away, as you'll be right on top of him, dealing too much damage for him to deal with, as he's very squishy. That lets you follow him with your Q. He'll outfarm you fast, so find him often. Olaf is a super hard matchup to win 1v1 in extended trades. Focus on lanes and try to get a kill lead there instead. After 6, your kick becomes useful for damage, as he will block it with his own ultimate. Long fights are bad, keep it short. Try and get fed from the lanes so you can have enough damage to kill him. Nocturne, ward hop away from his fear and you win the 1v1. Use your E to pop his spell shield, make sure he doesn't block your kick, as that's a lot of your damage gone. You get to make 3 ganks before his level 6, so use that time wisely, as that's your strongest point anyway. Set is another hard matchup. Dodge his W with ward hop to avoid lots of his damage. After level 6, The matchup is very hard as he can chain CC you and kill you, so try to kill him before he gets level 6. You also should farm faster than him, so that should make it easier. Warwick is possibly the hardest matchup. Warwick's clear is very healthy, so invades are bad. Focus on lanes and ensure you don't get counter-ganked, as one bad play can make him unstoppable 1v1. Let your team tank his ultimate in fights. As you get caught by it, you won't be able to get out even with Ward Hop as you're too squishy. Best case, he hits a tank and you can deal damage while that's happening, or he hits your carry and you can kick him away. Shyvana, win a 1v1 before level 6. Invade her as soon as possible, as her clear is not very good. After level 6, if she's AP, Ward Hop to her to dodge her fireball and kill her before she has a chance to use another one. You've got a short damage window where she has very little damage with her E on cooldown and you have lots of damage. Rengar, choosing where to fight is the most important thing. Don't face check bushes, bait him into an open river or lane. Use Q to find him in bushes, don't let him jump onto you. For Rek'Sai, you can stay still in bushes so that his tremor sense does not see you. That's the best way to get a jump on him. However, he's a very good counter to Lee Sin, as his knock-up interrupts your Q, so he counters you hard in fights, so try and avoid him in fights. Amumu, take long 1v1s early, but avoiding his Q is vital. No Q means no aftershock, which makes him very easy to kill. If he hits Q, the resistances will be too high to kill him before he gets away, and his team can collapse. Silas, avoid letting him regen health with W by saving damage until he uses it. You'll then have a period of time where you can kill him before it's back up. Executioner's calling is also important for 1v1s. Rammus, again, this might be the worst matchup in the game, so avoid picking into him if possible, or dodge the game if it comes up and you've got an AD team comp. Best you can do is peel for teammates and get Black Cleaver to shred his armor. Jax, dodge his stun and the 1v1 becomes easy, as he doesn't have enough damage to kill you without it. Jax takes a long time to farm and get items, so try to get your laners ahead so they can carry you to a victory before he outscales you. You can gank a lot more than him as well. Sejuani, a 1v1 is pretty much always Sejuani favoured and only gets worse after she gets Cinder Hulk. Similar to Amumu, dodge her Q and do damage before she stuns you with E, as after that, Aftershock will keep her alive. Trundle. Trundle is picked to counter tanks, so you're happy to pick Lee Sin into him and go full damage. The only other tip is to let him use his pillar before you ward hop, and then ward hop over it to escape. Ivern. Smite Daisy as often as possible, it's just a good counter to Ivern. Lee Sin is also a good jungler for assassinating Daisy and then returning to your team before the fight starts. So try and do this if Daisy's mispositioned and overextended. Smite, go in with Q, try and kill it, and then get out with your W. Wukong. Save Q until after the clone is used if possible, so it can't be blocked by it. If you do hit him with Q, you'll reveal him in stealth, so you can follow him that way. Disengage with your kick in fights to stop his knockups, it's a good trade. Skarner, 1v1 is winnable often, but you're hard countered by his ultimates for making plays in fights. So you really need to play with your team in that matchup as well. Sin Zhao, combo him before he can ult, get lots of damage in, and then use Ward Hop into the circle to finish him off. Right now, Lee Sin isn't in a very good spot, so try and avoid picking him into these bad matchups, and save him for these good matchups, where he's still reasonably good if you're playing well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave any questions you have about matchups in the comments, I'd be happy to answer.